It started with a camping trip. A family, 2 adults, 2 kids. A weekend in the Smoky Mountains they had been planning since January. Day 1 was perfect. Day 2, the mosquitoes arrived at dusk. By nightfall, everyone was inside the tent. By morning, the youngest had 37 bites on her arms and legs alone. They packed up and drove home a day early. That story is not unusual. That story happens every single summer to millions of families across the US, the UK, and Canada. And most of those families do what everyone does. They reach for a can of DEET-based repellent, spray it on their children, and try not to think too hard about what they are putting on a 5-year-old's skin. Here is what most people do not know about that moment. The mosquito is not just an annoyance. It is not just a nuisance that ruins evenings on the patio. The mosquito is the deadliest animal on the planet. Not the shark, not the lion, not the snake, the mosquito. Statistics. Each line is a standalone beat. The World Health Organization estimates mosquitoes kill more than 1 million people per year. Malaria alone kills a child somewhere in the world every 2 minutes. Dengue fever infects an estimated 400 million people annually across 129 countries. The Aedes aegypti mosquito, the one breeding in standing water in your neighborhood right now, transmits dengue, Zika, yellow fever, and chikungunya. West Nile virus has been reported in all 48 contiguous U.S. states. Every single one. Most people in the U.S., UK, and Canada treat mosquitoes like a minor seasonal inconvenience. Because the worst outcomes feel far away. Until they are not. In 2012, a woman in Louisiana, an avid gardener, healthy in her early 50s, was hospitalized for 2 weeks with West Nile neurological syndrome after being bitten in her own backyard in August. Her backyard, her neighborhood. A mosquito she never saw coming. This video is not about fear. It is about information. Because what most people do not know, what the gardening world has been sitting on for decades without saying loudly enough, is that the solution is not in a spray can. It is growing in the ground. Plants that have been keeping biting insects away for thousands of years. Tested in peer-reviewed scientific journals. Validated by independent researchers across multiple countries. Available right now at the nursery down the street. Number 3 on this list was tested against DEET in published scientific research. The results made entomologists stop and read the study twice. And number 2 has been used across Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and sub-Saharan Africa for thousands of years. Independently. By civilizations with no connection to each other. Modern science has now confirmed exactly why it worked. These 8 plants belong in your yard, and the window to get them in the ground is right now. Subscribe to Green Thumb Daily right now. Every week, this channel delivers the exact information that helps you spend less at the nursery, work less in the yard, and grow more of what actually performs. The video dropping next week covers the one planting mistake costing gardeners in zones 5 through 8 an entire season of bloom. And it is happening right now in gardens just like yours. If you are not subscribed, that video will not find you. Plant 1. Lavender. Lavandula angustifolia lavender is the most underestimated mosquito deterrent in the American garden. Most gardeners grow lavender for the look and the scent, and never realize the fragrance compounds making it extraordinary to you are jamming the sensory system mosquitoes use to locate you. Ancient Egyptians used lavender oil in embalming preparations partly because it kept insects away. Romans added it to baths and living spaces for practical insect deterrence. Medieval Europeans rubbed it on skin before working outdoors. Not superstition. Empirically tested solutions developed over centuries without synthetic chemistry. Hidcote is the standard, compact, cold-hardy to Zone 5, dense oil profile, available at virtually every nursery carrying lavender right now. Phenomenal is what Southeast and Lower Midwest gardeners in zones 6 through 9 should be asking for by name. Larger growth habit, exceptional drought tolerance, superior fragrance concentration in summer heat. Munstead is your selection in zones 3 and 4. Earlier bloom, better cold hardiness. In your zone, Munstead surviving is worth more than Hidcote that did not. Hardy in zones 5 through 9. Munstead extends that to zone 3. Pacific Northwest gardeners in zones 7 and 8. Lavender is perennial for you. Plant it once in well-drained soil. Your cool summers and mild winters are close to its native Mediterranean climate. Midwest gardeners in zones 5 and 6, raised beds or sloped planting areas, solve the freeze-thaw moisture problem that kills lavender in your zone. Solve the drainage once, and it returns every year. Full sun, 6 hours minimum, well-drained, slightly alkaline soil. Zero fertilizer once established. Prune by 1/3 after the first bloom flush to trigger second flowering. Never cut into old woody growth below the foliage line. Get the drainage wrong, and the roots rot before the end of the first season. You will not see it happening. The plant looks fine for 6 weeks, then goes gray almost overnight. Plant it in partial shade and you get half the aromatic oil concentration, half the repellent effect. No sun, no heat, no oil, no protection. The plant becomes decoration and nothing more. Plant it along walkways, around outdoor furniture, and at every entry point to the house. Bruise a few leaves between your fingers before you sit outside. That releases Linalool and camphor, confirmed in research to disrupt the olfactory receptors mosquitoes use to detect carbon dioxide and skin odor from a host. The most ancient mosquito repellent in the Western garden tradition, working since ancient Egypt. Without a single ingredient you cannot pronounce. Plant 2. Lemongrass. Cymbopogon citratus lemongrass is the oldest, most globally validated natural mosquito repellent in human history. Ancient Egypt, the Indian subcontinent, Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, civilizations with no geographic connection to each other, independently arrived at the same conclusion over thousands of years. This plant keeps insects away. When that level of convergence exists across human history, when unconnected cultures across 4 continents reach the same answer about the same plant, you are looking at something real. The compound is geraniol. Clinical trials have confirmed protection times against Aedes mosquitoes of up to 2.5 hours from geraniol-based formulations. A comparative study found those preparations competitive with low-concentration DEET in field conditions. Peer-reviewed science. One clear direction. Cymbopogon citratus is the species. Confirm the botanical name on the label before it goes in your cart. West Indian lemongrass is the most commonly stocked form at U.S. nurseries this season. Distinctive bulbous white base, strong citrus fragrance when you brush the stalk, and the geraniol content you are buying it for. Do not accept decorative Cymbopogon lookalikes, labeled as mosquito plants at big box stores. Bred for appearance. Geraniol content is a fraction of true lemongrass. Check the label every time. Perennial in zones 9 through 11. Container plant in zones 5 through 8. Gulf Coast gardeners in zones 9 and 10. Planted in the ground. It builds into large clumps over several seasons and delivers increasing repellent output every year. Midwest and Northeast gardeners in zones 5 through 7, 15-gallon container minimum. On the patio from May through September. Inside to a bright south-facing window when temperatures drop below 45 degrees. Do not wait for first frost, full sun. 6 to 8 hours per day, no compromise. Regular moisture. Check soil every 2 days in containers during peak summer heat. One balanced, slow-release fertilizer application in spring. Nothing else. Plant it in partial shade and the geraniol concentration drops significantly. The oil production requires sun and heat. Shade produces a decorative grass, not a repellent plant. In containers, underwatering triggers early dormancy. An early dormant lemongrass in August produces no oil, no fragrance, and no protection at exactly the time of year you need it most. Crush the stalks near the base at dusk. The citrus fragrance you register is registering to every mosquito in range as, "Go somewhere else." Ancient Egyptians planting aromatic grasses around their homes were doing empirical biology. They observed, tested, refined, and arrived at exactly the answer. Modern science is confirming in clinical trials today. The ancient world was not primitive. It was paying close attention. That knowledge is waiting in a container on your patio. Plant 3. Catnip, Nepeta, cataria. Catnip outperformed DEET in peer-reviewed laboratory research. That is not a gardening myth. That is published science. In 2001, researchers at Iowa State University found that nepeta-lactone, the active compound in catnip, repelled mosquitoes approximately 10 times more effectively than DEET, at equal concentrations in controlled conditions. The study has been widely cited in the entomology community for over 2 decades. DEET masks human scent signals. Nepeta-lactone triggers an active avoidance response in the mosquito's nervous system, not blocking the signal, sending a signal that says, "Go somewhere else." That distinction helps explain why the laboratory results were so dramatic. Nepeta cataria is the repellent species, the one the Iowa State research was conducted on. Available at most nurseries carrying herb or perennial sections. Walker's Low is the most widely planted ornamental Nepeta. Beautiful, lower nepeta-lactone concentration than straight cataria. Reasonable compromise if ornamental value matters. For documented repellent function, plant cataria. Junior Walker is the compact reblooming form developed for container growing. 18 inches tall, 2 bloom flushes per season. If patio container growing is your plan, this is the selection. Hardy in zones 3 through 9. Northern gardeners in zones 3 and 4. Returns reliably every spring. Cut back hard after each bloom flush to prevent aggressive self-seeding. Southeast gardeners in zones 7 through 9. Cataria reseeds aggressively in warm, fertile soil. Container growing is the only practical approach, unless you want catnip colonizing adjacent beds within 2 seasons. Full sun to partial shade. Average to lean soil. Low fertility increases essential oil concentration. Do not fertilize. Cut back by half after each bloom flush. Deadhead before seed set. That is the one non-negotiable in any zone. Plant cataria in an open garden bed without containment and it spreads by root and by seed simultaneously. Within 2 seasons it is in adjacent beds, between pavers, in areas you never planted it. Removing it requires digging out every root fragment. Miss one and it regrows from that fragment alone. Container planting or consistent deadheading before seed set. One of those two. Every season. Grow it in containers near outdoor seating. Crush the leaves and rub them on exposed skin before sitting outside. The same compound making your cat ecstatic is sending a neurological signal to every mosquito in range. Go somewhere else. Cat owners, grow it in an elevated container or cage it. Otherwise, you may find nothing left to harvest by July. Which of these first 3 plants do you already have in your yard right now? And which one are you adding to your list today for the very first time? Drop it in the comments and include your zone. Gardeners across zones 3 through 10 are reading those answers and making real planting decisions based on what you share. Plant 4. Rosemary. Salvia rosmarinus. Rosemary is a Mediterranean survivor built to repel insects without irrigation, without fertilizer, and without any help from you. Before you file this away as a kitchen herb, understand where it came from. In its native coastal Mediterranean habitat, rosemary developed a dense chemical arsenal to survive heat, drought, and insect pressure without human intervention. Ancient Romans planted it near doorways and common gathering areas. The aromatic compounds released passively into the surrounding air were understood, centuries before modern chemistry, to deter insects. That reputation was earned through centuries of direct observation. Tuscan blue is the upright standard. Tall to 4 feet, high camphor and borneol concentration, excellent heat tolerance through zones 7 and above. Most commonly stocked at nurseries this season, ARP is the cold-hardy selection for zones 5 and 6, developed specifically to survive winters that kill standard rosemary. In zone 6 with good drainage, it survives in the ground. Prostrate rosemary is the trailing form, spreading to 4 feet wide, excellent along patio edges and between stepping stones where foot traffic releases the oils naturally. Hardy in zones 7 through 10 in the ground. ARP extends that to zone 6 and protected locations in zone 5. Pacific Northwest gardeners in zones 7 and 8. Rosemary is perennial and thrives in your climate. Plant it once and it grows larger every season. Midwest gardeners in zones 5 and 6 grow ARP. In zone 5, overwinter in a cool garage or unheated mudroom where temperatures stay above 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Full sun. Poor, well-drained soil. No fertilizer once established. If you are killing rosemary, you are watering it too much. That is not an exaggeration. That is what happens. Prune after bloom. Never cut into old woody growth below the foliage line. Overwatering causes root rot and the plant collapses fast. You will see it look fine for weeks, then turn brown within a few days. By the time you notice, the root system is already compromised. The plant cannot be saved. Heavy clay soil without amendment produces the same outcome. The fix: well-drained soil or a raised bed, and water only when the top 2 inches of soil are dry. Get the drainage right once, and rosemary rewards you for years. Plant dense clusters near outdoor seating and fire pits. At a gathering, throw fresh rosemary sprigs directly onto hot coals. The smoke has been used since antiquity as a space-clearing insect deterrent. Ancient Mediterranean communities did this at outdoor gatherings for the same reason you will. It works, and it makes whatever you are cooking taste better at the same time. Plant 5. Basil. Ocimum's basilicum basil is the only ingredient in your kitchen garden that also protects the chef. Basil has been cultivated for over 5,000 years, originating in tropical regions of Asia and Africa, where insects are not a seasonal annoyance, but a year-round disease vector. Traditional use included placing basil plants near windows, doorways, and gathering areas specifically for insect deterrence. Modern research confirmed the mechanism. Basil essential oil contains eugenol, linalool, and methylchavicol, compounds with documented repellent properties against Aedes, Culex, and Anopheles species. A comprehensive study found Ocimum basilicum essential oil achieved 100% repellency against certain mosquito species in laboratory conditions at standard concentrations. Genovese basil is the kitchen standard, the one in your pasta. Strong eugenol content, available everywhere from May through August. Holy basil, Ocimum tenuiflorum, also sold as Tulsi, carries the highest documented repellent compound concentration of any basil variety. Clove forward, slightly peppery. Increasingly available at Indian grocery stores with plant sections and specialty herb nurseries across zones 5 through 10. Lemon basil brings elevated citral content on top of standard basil compounds. An additional layer of repellent activity. Plant near outdoor dining areas. Annual across all zones. Replant each season. Zone 3 through 5. Do not plant until after last frost and soil temperatures reach 60 degrees Fahrenheit. A cold snap below 50 degrees damages the foliage. Below 40 degrees kills it. In zones 3 and 4, you are planting in late May to early June. Zone 8 through 10, direct sow from April. In zones 9 and 10, basil works as a fall and winter annual planted in October when summer heat breaks. full sun, rich, moist, well-drained soil. Balanced liquid fertilizer every 3 weeks. Pinch off flower buds the moment they appear. Basil that flowers stops producing leaves and stops producing the aromatic oils doing the repellent work. Pinch it every time. Allow veil to bolt and essential oil concentration drops noticeably within 2 weeks. The plant has redirected energy to seed production. You taste the difference first. Leaves turn slightly bitter. The same change is happening in the aromatic compound profile. The repellent function and the culinary quality fail at the same time for the same biological reason. Pinch the flowers every time you see them. This single management task determines whether your basil performs all season or collapses in July. Here is the practical advantage basil has over every other plant on this list. You are already motivated to maintain it. You will water it. You will harvest it. You will prune it. Every time you do, you release the oils doing the repellent work. Grow it in large pots near outdoor eating areas, near the grill, on the patio table. Proximity and casual contact are enough. The only ingredient in your kitchen that also protects the kitchen. If this list has given you real, usable information and you know it did, subscribe to Green Thumb Daily right now. Not because this channel asked you to, but because what just happened in this video happens here every single week. Gardeners who find this channel and subscribe never have to search for answers again. Every solution, every fix, delivered directly before the damage is done. Plant 6. Lemon Balm. Melissa officinalis lemon balm is the overachiever on this list. And most gardeners growing it for tea have no idea what else it is quietly doing. Ancient Greek herbalists noted that bees were attracted to it, while biting flies and mosquitoes stayed away. Monastery gardens across medieval Europe grew lemon balm in outdoor work areas because it made those spaces more comfortable to occupy for hours at a stretch. Lemon balm contains high concentrations of citronellol, the same compound responsible for much of citronella grass's documented effectiveness. Research on concentrated lemon balm, essential oil found repellency rates against mosquitoes exceeding 97% in controlled laboratory conditions. That is not a modest result. Standard Melissa officinalis is what you want. Smell it through the pot before you buy it. Strong citrus mint fragrance means high oil content. Weak or absent fragrance means the plant was grown for appearance, not essential oil production. Move to the next pot. Aurea is the gold variegated form, same essential oil profile as the straight species, striking visual impact, widely available at nurseries in zones 4 through 9. Quedlinburger Niederliegend is the low-growing commercial oil production form with elevated citronellol content. Ask for it at specialty herb growers. Standard lemon balm with strong fragrance at point of purchase delivers the same functional result if you cannot find it. Hardy in zones 4 through 9. Perennial and reliably returning. Northern gardeners in zones 4 and 5. Dies back in winter, returns strong in spring. Mulch the crown in November with 2 to 3 inches of straw for best re-emergence. Southern gardeners in zones 8 and 9. Spreads aggressively by root, stolon, and seed simultaneously. Container growing in your zone is not a preference. It is the practical approach. Partial shade to full sun tolerates shade better than most plants on this list. Consistent moisture. Average soil. Grow in containers or sink a container into the ground to block root spread. Trim by 1/3 after the first bloom flush to push fresh vegetative growth where the highest oil concentration lives. Plant it in an open bed without containment, and it will be everywhere within 2 seasons. The root system spreads underground before you see any surface growth. By the time it appears in adjacent beds, it is already fully established there. Removing it completely requires digging out every root fragment. A 16-inch nursery pot sunk flush with the soil surface solves this permanently. Do it once. Never think about containment again. Grow it in containers near outdoor seating and entry points. Rub the leaves on exposed skin before sitting outside. Fresh lemon balm gives you a pleasant smelling, effective contact repellent without a spray can, without synthetic compounds, and without putting anything on your skin you cannot identify. It has been quietly keeping insects away from outdoor spaces for 1,000 years, without anyone giving it the credit it deserves. Out of everything on this list so far, which plant genuinely surprised you the most? Leave it in the comments right now and include your zone. Gardeners in your exact climate, dealing with your exact soil and mosquito pressure, are reading those answers. Your real-world experience is worth more to them than anything on a nursery tag. Plant 7. Peppermint. Mentha times piperita. Peppermint is one of the most effective contact repellents in the plant kingdom, and most people growing it never use it for anything except tea. Medieval European households strewed fresh mint leaves on floors and near sleeping areas to keep fleas, flies, and insects away from the family. That was not a decorating choice. That was pest management. The primary repellent compound is menthol, along with menthone and pulgon. These terpenoids are potent disruptors of mosquito olfactory function. Studies have confirmed repellent activity against multiple species, with protection times in some formulations comparable to low-concentration synthetic repellents. Research has also confirmed larvicidal effects. Peppermint oil disrupts mosquito larval development in standing water at low concentrations. Menthe piperita. Straight peppermint, highest menthol concentration, most documented repellent activity. The functional selection. Chocolate mint has a lower menthol profile but still delivers meaningful repellent activity, and the most requested fragrance at nurseries in zones 5 through 8 right now. Spearmint, Mentha spicata, is milder on the repellent scale but grows vigorously and works well as a pathway planting where foot traffic releases the oils throughout the day. Hardy in zones 3 through 11. One of the most adaptable plants on this list. Pacific Northwest gardeners. Perennial and will spread aggressively. Your cool, moist climate is close to ideal for mint. Container growing is mandatory. Southeast gardeners in zones 8 through 10 may go dormant during peak summer heat and return in fall. Grow in containers with afternoon shade in those zones. The dormancy is temporary. Partial shade to full sun, consistent moisture. Grow in containers. Not as a preference, as an absolute requirement. Plant peppermint in an open garden bed, and it will take over that bed, then the adjacent bed, then the lawn between them. That is not speculation. That is what mint does in favorable conditions. Allow peppermint to spread unchecked, and you will spend more time managing the plant than enjoying the benefit. The runners spread underground and emerge several feet from the parent plant before they are visible above ground. By the time you see the new shoots, the root system beneath them is already established. Removing an established mint colony requires digging out every root fragment. Miss one and it regrows from that fragment alone. A container with no drainage connection to open soil eliminates this problem entirely. One decision, made once. Add a few drops of peppermint essential oil to standing water in unused containers or bird baths. The larvicidal effect disrupts mosquito development before adult mosquitoes become the problem. You are addressing the life cycle, not just reacting to adults already flying. Rub fresh peppermint leaves on exposed skin before sitting outside. It repels. It refreshes. It makes every glass of summer iced tea better. All three at exactly the same time. Plant 8. Marigolds. Tagetes species. Marigolds are the most underestimated plant in the American home garden. Most people think of them as cheerful filler. That is a mistake worth correcting. Tagetes are native to Central America and Mexico. cultivated since before European contact as both sacred flowers and practical insect deterrents. Traditional Mexican and Central American agriculture interplanted marigolds throughout vegetable gardens to reduce pest pressure. That practice spread globally because it worked. The repellent activity comes from thiophene compounds throughout the foliage and root system. Published research has confirmed that Tagetes minuta essential oil demonstrates significant mosquito-repelling activity. Some studies have documented larvicidal effects against common mosquito species from marigold root exudates. French marigold, Tagetes patula, compact, dense foliage, high thiophene concentration, available at virtually every nursery right now. Bonanza series and Safari series are the most widely stocked selections. African marigold, Tagetes erecta, grows larger and produces more total foliage mass, more thiophene compounds per planting area. Crackerjack and Inca 2 are the named selections with the best documented insect deterrents in published research. Signet marigold, Tagetes tenuifolia, the edible form. Bright, citrus-scented foliage, strong repellent profile. Gem series, lemon gem and tangerine gem. Available at specialty nurseries and farmers markets. Across zones 3 through 10 this season. Annual across all zones. Replant each season. Midwest and Northeast gardeners in zones 3 through 6. Start from transplants after last frost. French marigolds establish fast, producing foliage mass within 3 weeks of transplanting. Southeast and Southwest gardeners in zones 8 through 10. Plant in spring and again in September. In zones 9 and 10, they function as reliable winter annuals planted in October. Full sun, well-drained soil, consistent deadheading to extend the bloom period. Dense planting, not optional. 8 plants in a tight cluster outperform 30 plants scattered across 100 feet of border. That is what the research says. Plant marigolds in sparse scattered groupings, and you are getting decoration without the compound concentration needed for meaningful mosquito deterrence. The published research used concentrations from dense plantings, not isolated individual plants. One plant is an ornament. A dense cluster is a boundary. Sparse planting is the single most common reason. Gardeners try marigolds for insect control and conclude they do not work. They work. Planted correctly, at adequate density, they work. Plant densely around the perimeter of your patio, along the fence line, near outdoor furniture, and at entry points to the house. They attract parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and native bees that prey on many garden pest species beyond mosquitoes. You are not just creating a mosquito boundary. You are building an ecological defense system that makes the entire garden healthier. A cheerful, zero-maintenance security guard who looks extraordinary on the job and never asks for a day off. Expert tips. Before you head to the nursery, 5 things that determine whether this list actually works for you.
French marigolds typically
1.
come in warm shades
Smell the
of
plant
oranges,
before you buy
reds,
it.
and yellows.
For
Some
any
varieties
herb
have
on
a
this
single
list,
row of petals,
aromatic
while others have
intensity
lots
is a
of petals,
direct
making the
indicator
flowers
of
look like
essential
little
oil
pom-poms.
content.
Marigolds
No
perform
scent
best
means
in full
low
sun,
oil
which will help the
concentration.
plant form
Move
large,
to the
dense
next
blooms
pot.
and lush
2.
leaves. And a little
Confirm the
fertilizer
botanical
every
name
couple
for
of weeks helps
lemongrass.
marigolds
You
continue to
want
pump out its
Cymbopogon
showy
citratus
flowers.
or
As the marigold's
Cymbopogon
flowers fade,
narcis.
pick them off to
Not
focus the
decorative
plant's energy
lookalikes.
on making
Check
more
the
flowers
label.
rather than
If
making
the
seeds.
botanical name
If you
is
want
not
to collect
there,
seeds, leave a few
ask.
spent
If they
blooms and
cannot
allow
tell
them to
you,
fully
do
ripen
not
and
buy
dry.
it.
Now that you've
3.
learned more
For
about the French
catnip,
marigold,
plant
go
the
forth and
species.
plant.
Nepeta cataria. Not Walker's Low, not a decorative hybrid. Ornamentals are beautiful. For documented mosquito deterrence, plant the species. 4. Dense planting over scattered plant. All
These marigolds have
Lemongrass,
just become such a
Catnip,
favorite
basil,
in the
basil,
garden this season.
Rosemary
They've just
near the
taken
fire,
over
lemon
when
balm
everything's
and
starting
peppermint at
to
entry
kind of
points.
die off, and it's just so
Marigolds dance
beautiful.
along the fence line. That is not overkill. That is a layered system addressing mosquito behavior at every level simultaneously. The plants do not compete. They compound. You do not need to saturate yourself or your children in synthetic chemistry to enjoy your outdoor space. You do not need expensive gadgets, toxic coils, or anything in an aerosol can. Lavender along your pathways, buildings a scent perimeter mosquitoes navigate around, not through. Lemongrass at your perimeter, doing what it has done for people across 4 continents for thousands of years. Catnip in containers, where the science says it outperforms synthetic alternatives at equal concentrations. Rosemary near your fire, repelling insects and elevating the food at the same time. Basil on your patio table, the ingredient that protects the chef. Lemon balm and peppermint at your entry points, working from the first warm day through the last frost. Marigolds at the perimeter, dense, cheerful, and building a defense system that makes the entire garden more alive. These plants do not just repel mosquitoes, they attract pollinators. Several are edible. Many have medicinal and aromatic uses that ancient cultures and modern researchers both agree on. The ancient world discovered this by paying close attention. Modern science confirmed it by doing exactly the same thing. In a laboratory this time, with the same result. If this video gave you real, actionable information, and you know it did, subscribe to Green Thumb Daily right now. Not because this channel asked you to, but because what just happened in this video happens here every single week. Gardeners who subscribe never have to search for these answers again. They arrive every week, before the season turns and before the damage is done. Out of all 8 plants on this list, which one are you absolutely certain belongs in your yard this season? And which one surprised you the most? Drop both answers in the comments below. Because somewhere in this comment section, a gardener in your exact zone dealing
French
with your
marigolds
exact
typically
soil
come in warm
and your
shades of
exact
oranges,
mosquito
reds,
pressure
and yellows.
is reading
Some
what you
varieties
write,
have a single
and
row
your
of petals,
real
while
world
others have
experience
lots
in
of
your
petals,
garden
making the
is
flowers
worth
look like
more
little
to them
pom-poms.
than any
Marigolds
nursery
perform best
tag,
in full
any
sun, which will
gardening
help the plant
catalog
form large,
description,
dense blooms
or
and lush
anything a
leaves.
search
And a
engine
little
will ever
fertilizer every couple of
surface.
weeks